Hello everybody and welcome to the list video here at Playing Board Games. Today I'm here to talk about 10 game changers from the Dream Eaters expansion. This is a nice expansion with some very powerful investigators. Tommy Muldoon, Mandy Thompson, Tony Morgan, Luke Robinson, and Patrice Hathaway. So some very powerful investigators. But what are some game changer player cards that are in this box? I have two here from each class that I think are cards that move the needle, that when they're now in your collection, you're going to be surprised about how much you kind of just like tap into them in just general decks. I'm not saying that these are the strongest cards from the expansion in terms of like their peaks, but these are the cards that I think generally have the most staple-like qualities to them, or the cards that you're just going to find putting in the most of your deck. So that's why they're called a game changer and not like the strongest card here. The Dream Eaters expansion is set to be released this week, according to the Asmodee's shop. So fingers crossed they hit that, and then you too can enjoy the power of these awesome cards. Our first card we're here to talk about today is none other than Tetsuo Mori. So this is a Guardian asset, a level 0 asset. He's too noble for his own good. He takes up the ally slot. He soaks for 2 and 2. He can be assigned damage and or horror dealt to other investigators at your location. As a reaction, when Tetsuo Mori is defeated, choose an investigator at your location. That investigator searches either their discard pile or the top 9 cards of their deck for an item asset and adds it into their hand. Shuffle their deck if it is searched. So the thing that makes Tetsuo Mori such a game changer is that he does a lot in a very cheap package. Yes, 3 resources is equal to 1 emergency cash, but we're not going to worry about that too much, because what this guy does is he soaks for other people, he soaks for you, and he also finds something on his way out. This is a very good ally that you can actually just like put into your deck to not even be your ally. You can use him to just take some damage for somebody when the moment comes, and then he can search somebody's deck to help them find what they are missing. His ability to help your consistency is very nice. And what's even better is that if, for example, you want something in your discard pile, it's really good for that as well. Tetsuo obviously works really well with Tommy Muldoon, the investigator that comes in this box. There's a lot of synergy there. But Tetsuo Mori is going to be an ally that you're going to actually find yourself using in a lot of your Guardian decks going forward, because he is just that good and just that efficient. I've seen people online talk about that Tetsuo Mori has replaced Prepared for the Worst for them in a lot of cases. And I think that is actually a pretty good use for Tetsuo Mori. Actually, for me personally, I usually run like Tetsuo and like Backpack when I want to find certain things. I think it's a really nice combination. But Tetsuo is just like a really good ally that's going to work really well. If you already have all the boxes up until this point, you can try him in Roland Banks to help soak some of that horror for you. You can try him in Leo Anderson, because all allies work well with Leo Anderson, and Leo Anderson also wants to find weapons. You can try him in Will York. You can try him in Mark Harrigan to soak damage while also drawing cards. Tetsuo Mori is just a very versatile investigator. Ally for all investigators, and I think you're going to find that he does really well for you in this when you get him in your collection. Next Guardian card we have here is Safeguard level 2. So if you have the Nathaniel Cho starter deck, you might have Safeguard level 0. And there is actually a big difference between them, apart from the fact that Safeguard 2 costs 2 XP. So it's a 2 cost, 2 XP talent asset. As a reaction, during another investigator's turn, exhaust Safeguard. For the remainder of that investigator's turn, as they move into from your location to a connected location, you may move to that location as well. So what this does is it lasts for their entire turn for all their movement, but you're moving into the location at the same time as them. With the level 0 Safeguard, you move into the location after them, which means that if there is an enemy there, they will engage that enemy, which kind of defeats the purpose for a lot of Guardians, because Safeguard here is to save your actions that you would be moving, to instead be using those actions to set up for future fights, or taking advantage of that extra action to fight with. So what Safeguard level 2 does, it allows you to move in with somebody else, which means that if you move into a location with an enemy, you enter at the same time, and you can choose to engage the enemy, assuming the enemy doesn't have prey, because that will change things the few times where prey is actually relevant. Yeah, this is just a card that, while not exactly super flashy or like anything that's going to blow the lid off like the power level of your thing, this is going to be a game changer for you, because it's just going to provides so much more consistency and power for your Guardian's abilities to fight, because now they can kill things without having to move. You can also use this on your Cloovers. This is something that Travis did. Travis, I believe, played a Carolyn Fern deck, I think, where he used Safeguard to just never move again. And it works really well as your Cloover. Same thing. You can use it to just spend more time investigating, which is really good. Next card here, our first Seeker card, is going to be none other than Practice Makes Perfect. Well, Travis is not here to record this video with me. Travis is here in spirit. Actually, I think Travis just messaged on Discord. He did, yeah. So it's a 1-cost event. It's a Gambit tactic. As a fast, play during a skill test at your location. Search the top 9 cards of your deck for a practice skill and commit it to the skill test if able. Shuffle the remaining cards back into your deck. After this test ends, if it was successful, and add that skill to your hand instead of discarding it. So, what does this do? It doubles up on all your practice skills if you do pass the test. Some relevant practice skills that might pique your interest are, I don't know, deduction, perception, vicious blow. I believe overpower is also practiced because, yeah, Silas can't play the upgraded version. These are all just like really powerful cards that you can take advantage of playing twice. And then we also get into some upgraded cards that are also practiced that you can get really powerful with. This is a card that, if you've been watching our channel for a while, Travis really loves. There's just so much value packed into this card, which means that, which is why it's just such a good game changer. You're gonna find yourself looking at your card pool and being like, hey, I'm playing Mark Harrigan, and I noticed that my signature card on the home front is practiced. And I also noticed that I can play Tactics level 0. So then it suddenly goes, oh, that means I can also play Overpower and, all this other stuff. And it becomes one of those things that you're actually going to find yourself looking at Practice Makes Perfect and seeing more places than you can slot it in you otherwise wouldn't be able to expect yourself to, which I think is why the card is actually pretty damn cool. Next up on our list is we got the Dream Enhancing Serum. So I think this card is a little bit different than from some of the other ones I've talked about, but I do think that it is still actually a game changer in a way that it's going to help your decks be more consistent towards hand size. So hand size decks are going to be more possible for people who aren't for example, just Harvey Walters at this point, or if you have the old Innsmouth boxes, Amanda Sharp's really good for hand size. This is something that you can use to increase the consistency of hand size decks outside of investigators that kind of have that innately built into their system. So, Dream Enhancing Serum is a 3-cost item science asset that takes up an arcane slot. Only the first copy of each card in your hand counts towards your maximum hand size. As a reaction, after you draw a copy of a card that is already in your hand, you can reveal both copies and exhaust Dream Enhancing Serum to draw 1 card. So this means that, you're holding a perception, you draw a perception, you get to then reveal your perceptions to your friends and be like, look at this, I can now draw another card on top of that. Only the first copy of each card in your hand counts as towards your maximum hand size. Also means that those 2 perceptions now only count as 1 card when it comes to counting your hand size. This is what I mean where it makes the hand size a bit more consistent, and I think it also adds some power to investigators that may be lacking some draw, to give them some kind of innate draw, especially if they are, for example, spell slinging, using events to do things, or using skills to do things to take advantage of getting some extra draw when you're holding your cards for the perfect time. This works really well also with investigators who look at cycling their hand to just kind of get value where they can. I've seen examples of people actually versatiling Dream Enhancing Serum into Silas Marsh and Winifred Havemuck, 2 investigators that like having drawing cards and getting holding things for the right time, and I think Dream Enhancing Serum can do a really good job at taking advantage of that. Next up on our list, we're going to go to the rogue cards. Our first card here is actually, this is I think the biggest definition for me personally of a game changer. Because this card is just so good at filling slots in your deck, especially if you take In the Thick of It from Edge of the Earth. You're going to find yourself being like, well, I can play Easy Mark. I might as well slot it in for 1 experience. Easy Mark is a 0-cost, 1 experience trick. It's a myriad card, which means that for the price of 1 experience, you get to add 3 cards into your deck. Easy Mark, when you play it, you gain 2 resources and draw a card. And then, as a reaction, after you play Easy Mark, you can play another Easy Mark from your hand at no cost, which means it doesn't cost an action. I mean, it didn't cost resources anyways. If somehow your costs are increased, you can play it at no cost, which is kind of neat. But what this card does is the thing that makes this card so good is just the fact that you get 3 of them for 1 experience, which means you just boost your deck, you boost your economy, and you look good doing it. Notably, this card, while you can stack them, and it's always good to stack them, you get more value out of it. It is one of those things that don't feel bad if you just have to play 1 Easy Mark to gain 2 resources and draw a card. This works really well with, say, for example, that Dream Enhancing Serum we just talked about. You can, draw your Easy Mark into another Easy Mark to then reveal them and draw another card, and they still only count as 1 card in your hand. But just Easy Mark is just like a very, very, very efficient card that you're going to find yourself playing in so many of your decks going forward now that you have the Dream Eaters expansion. It's just a very good card, and I think you're going to love playing with it. Next card we got here for our other road card is Delilah O'Rourke. So she is a 3-cost, 3-experience ally asset. She's also Criminal and Syndicate. She gets +1, when you have her in play, you get +1 fist and +1 foot. And as a lightning bolt, you can exhaust Delilah O'Rourke and spend X resources, choose an enemy or location, deal 1 damage to the chosen enemy, 2 damage instead if that enemy is exhausted. X is the chosen enemy's evade value. She also soaks for 3 health and 2 horror. If you have the Forgotten Age expansion, you probably recognize Delilah O'Rourke looking a little bit like Lola Santiago. And Lola Santiago is a very powerful rogue ally in this investigating side. And I would say that while Delilah O'Rourke isn't as strong as Lola Santiago, just like in a vacuum, she is still quite comparable for boosting up the combat side of rogues. Rogues can produce a lot of money. Rogues who can fight with their foot now, even more consistently with Hemlock Veil. They can fight with their fist with guns. But most importantly, the free damage, well, not free, it costs you resources, but the lightning bolt damage can be very good. There's also some tricks you can do with Delilah O'Rourke, because if the enemy is exhausted, you get to, you deal extra damage. So this can be done by evading the enemy, or, for example, if after enemies move, after enemies attack, if for some reason you're built to soak the attack, that enemy's going to be exhausted after it fights, which means you can use Delilah O'Rourke in that window. While she doesn't go as busted as I would say in general synergies of what you're capable of with things like Flashlight, with Lola Santiago, I do think that Delilah O'Rourke is going to be an ally that you're going to see yourself playing more than you think, because she's just a really good upgrade in for any rogue that's looking at fighting, or any rogue that's looking at combat with some big money involved in their pool. She's a very good card, and she's gonna do good things for you once you get this box. Next, it's so fun to just talk about cards that I love. It's a good time. Next up here, we're going into the Mystic class, and these 2 should be no surprise if you've played with this Dream Eaters box before. 2 very powerful spells. We got Spectral Razor, and I'm going to talk a little bit also about the other one here, which is Read the Signs. We're going to kind of bounce back and forth, because they are both very similar, and they are both very, very, very good. If I have to look at Dream Eaters, I think that these are the cards that I have played the most from Dream Eaters, just because they're so damn powerful that you kind of have to find a reason not to play them. So Spectral Razor, 2-cost event, fight, add your brain value to your skill value for this attack. Immediately before this attack, you may engage the attacked enemy. This attack deals +1 damage, +2 damage instead if the enemy is non-elite. This allows you to fight aloof enemies as well. This is actually something that was just being talked about in our Discord channel, which you should join down in the video description yesterday. So the thing about this card is that it does so many things. It's adding your brain to your fist. So you're getting +5. Let's be real, you're a mystic, you're getting +5. Then you also can deal 3 damage to a non-elite enemy, which is huge. That is so much power for an event. I do think that while it does seem very strong, remember that events at least at level 0, this one is a 1-use event. So it goes away. So the 3 damage premium on top of that makes up for the fact that it is a 1-use sort of event. The other thing it does that is probably the best part of this card in terms of like just giving it like that cherry on top to really just make it sing is that you also get to engage the attacked enemy, which means, again, you can attack aloof enemies, but also if, for example, your Seeker drew a card, an enemy that is now scaring them, you can grab it off of them and have no risk of your Seeker getting attacked. Read the signs. It works very similar. You get to investigate 2-cost spell as well. Investigate, add your brain value to your skill value for this investigation. You may ignore any effect or keyword on your location which would trigger during this investigation. If you succeed, discover 1 additional clue at this location. While still very powerful, I don't think it's on the same level as Spectral Razor, but I still think this is a fantastic card. Just getting 2 clues, being able to get like +5 for an investigate is really nice for just like a Mystic to run 2 of these very easily in their deck. The ignoring an effect or keyword which would trigger during this investigation is going to be more relevant than you think. But these are just 2 very powerful spells that I think you're going to play a lot of when it comes to opening this box and getting these cards into your collection. Just Spectral Razor, Read the Signs are fantastic, fantastic cards. On to our last 2 cards. We're going to hop into the Survivor land, and our first one we're going to talk about here is Jessica Hyde. While Survivors have kind of just been like generally good at everything, I think that this is an expansion that's going to start giving you as a Survivor a bit more consistency in your ability to output damage. Jessica Hyde is a way to increase your fist, but she also, let me actually just read the card. She's a 3-cost, 1 experience ally Wayfarer Curse that takes up the ally slot. Soaks for 3 and 1, you get +1 fist, and she enters play with 2 damage on her. And then, as a reaction, after your turn ends, you heal 1 damage from Jessica Hyde. This works this is very comparable to Pete Sylvester, who does it for horror, and there's actually a lot of builds that you'll see online and people talk about where you just buy Charisma, and you play Pete Sylvester and Jessica Hyde, and you just like never die while getting +1 to your brain, foot, and fist. Jessica Hyde is a very, very good ally to have. She just, like Peter Sylvester, she means you just don't die to damage. She's just like really good for that. She has a lot of synergy with Vincent Lee. If you have the Scarlet Keys Investigator expansion, you know, you can, the healing damage from her gives you one of your On the Men's, which I think is a very, very nice package to have, while also giving him a fist. But what it really does that Jessica Hyde is nice is just that +1 fist. Again, I think that this expansion does a good job of giving you kind of just some tools to just round out your Survivor killing kit to make you a bit more viable when it comes to fighting things. Jessica Hyde is an ally that I'll consistently use in Salas Marsh, for example, just because that +1 fist is really nice. Yes, the not die by damage is a good boon that Jessica Hyde brings, but it's not like the main reason that I'm looking to play her. It's that fist. The fist is really nice. And our last card here, which I think is probably my favorite card from this cycle, and also I think one of the strongest cards from the cycle, is Brute Force. This is a Survivor skill. There's a whole cycle of these, and they're all pretty damn playable, but this is the one that I think is the best. It's a 1 experience, innate developed skill, commits for a fist. Max 1 committed per skill test. While Brute Force is committed during a basic fight action, it gains Fist, and the text, if this test is successful by 2 or more, this attack deals +2 damage. This is a lot of power in a card that you can just like, you know, kill something with. It's one of those cards that anytime you see someone commit a Brute Force to a test, you say, oh my god, this is the hypest thing I've seen in my entire life. I can't wait to see what you do with it. I hope you pull well and it's gonna rock. It's a 1 experience card, so it's going to fit in a lot of decks that can just splash Survivor cards. Obviously, like if you it works well with Tommy. I don't think it's going to be that playable for you with Patrice, but you can play it in a Tommy deck and attack at 7, even more if you have a fist boost on top of that. But this goes back to what I was saying about how this is just a card. This cycle really rounds out the Survivor's ability to fight more consistently, because this is a very powerful tool. And then also, if you're playing a Resourceful, this is probably my #1 Resourceful target. Resourceful Carcosa, if it's successful, you get to return a Survivor card not named Resourceful to your hand. Brute Force is probably my #1 recurred cards from this, and it's probably just the card that I put in most of my decks. You don't even need to be fighting to put it in your deck as well. If you have a goon with you, like say for example you're playing like just like, I don't know, Stella Clark, and someone from the Dream Eaters expansion is like, hey, I want to play Tony Morgan. You can play this and tell Tony Morgan to just fight normally, and now Tony Morgan's attacking at 8 for 3 damage. It's a very versatile card, and it is very, very good. And that are the 10 game changers from the Dream Eaters expansion. Well, for us who have bought the old version back in the day, this box has been in our collection for a long time. I hope you enjoy these cards that I shared here today, and I hope they also impact your collection like they impacted ours. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one, and as always, GG's.